Hello everyone and welcome to The Other Web. Our guest today is Vinnie Potestivo. Vinnie is an Emmy Award-winning media advisor who grows personal brands and founder-led companies by scaling content distribution, brand visibility, and media reach. We reached out to Vinnie to get his unique perspective on what it takes for founders to get media coverage, and viewing the same question from the opposite direction, what does it take for journalists to make a living in today's environment? Why would journalists want to talk to, anyone? Hopefully, Vinnie can help us find out. Hey, Vinnie, welcome to The Other Web.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Alex.
So I saw that you're a media advisor and you're actually an Emmy Award winner and you've worked with all these different celebrities. Can you tell me a bit about it?
Is there any truth in that bio there? Yeah, I'm blessed to know people like Ashton Kutcher and even Jessica Simpson, the Osbourne, Sharon Osbourne, Diddy, Puff Daddy himself, creators who went through MTV in the late 90s to get their brands seen by millions and millions of people. And I was a talent coordinator at MTV in the late 90s and was there at that time when those like top 1% creators, the top creative entrepreneurs, had to go through television to get an audience. And I learned to collaborate and create and build with the best of them. So I was spoiled out of the gate. And what I'm focused on doing now is spoiling y'all. Making sure now that we can own our content, now that we don't have to pitch to a network, now that we can create content and we can own it and we can air it and it can be seen or heard by millions of people and we still retain ownership of it. This is a major change. Specifically in America for people selling media in America. In any other country, usually the creator retains a small portion of the IP and then they come back to America and they license the show. Apprentice was a show that was created off of American soil and comes on, and the ownership of that deal is different than if you sell it to a network here. Ashton Kutcher sold Punk'd to MTV. MTV owns Punk'd. MTV, Nick Cannon sold Wild 'N Out, which is a big comedy show for about 20 years now, to MTV. MTV owns that show. And what I'd like to do now is help business owners and independent creatives know how to and steer them to create content successfully to make the impact that they want to make. And by the way, I love that you nodded the Emmy. So thank you very much. I worked hard for her. I won her last year. So after 25 years, I finally became an Emmy Award-winning TV executive. And I want to point out that it was done from this office. I actually thought that I would win all my awards by being out in the field or all the big sets that I've been on. And long story short, I won my Emmy for two reasons. And I want to talk about them. And we'll talk about them maybe later on too. One is I was never nominated. So like if you're not nominated, you can't win. So I actually had to learn how to apply for the Emmys, which meant I had to work on a qualifying project. So I want to talk to y'all more about how to find awards, how to find projects, how to find moments to tie those two pieces together and why you'd want to do that. And then the other part was I just needed to believe in myself and believe that I was worthy of the award, and that in winning that award, I was really focused on my thank you speech because of all the people that I get to thank, with that opportunity. And that helped me get the courage to go out there and get that award. That Emmy Award is one of the rare awards that spans, industries. Yes, people in TV understand what it is, but also people outside of the TV world understand the impact of that award. Winning an award like that spans the economy, for me was tremendous because I want to be seen as a media expert. And that little lady does a better job at explaining my expertise than the 20 billion hours of the Osbournes or Housewives of New Jersey or Millionaire Matchmaker or Wild 'N Out, any Jackass, any of the shows that I've been a part of could ever explain in a nutshell. And that's just one of the things I learned from my time at MTV, from watching celebrities build their brands. I noticed this every single year. There's this it's award. Now we're in it now. It's February, March. It's award season. Who wore what? Who didn't go? Who didn't get nominated? There's so many shareable moments that come from these awards, and they happen every year. Like celebrities figured this out. It's not once in a lifetime to win an Emmy. It's once a year you get a shot at it. And that was a really nice realization moment when I realized that, because that made me realize how much how easier it is, how much more accessible that Emmy Award is, not for just people in television, because I didn't technically win it by being at a big fancy network with a big fancy network title. I won that Emmy as an independent creator, and that's what makes that so rewarding. So thanks for bringing that up.
No problem. So you mentioned some very successful people that are known by billions, and I know quite a few very smart, talented people who are known by maybe 100 people, and they're trying to be known by 200. So what is the difference? What do the really successful creators do that us normies don't know yet?
How about this? Maybe I'm going to grossly generalize now. Maybe us normies put a lot of focus on what our capabilities are or our achievements are, where I think a lot of celebrities don't. They just know that by showing up, by being present, by being in the conversation sometimes, that their presence is enough, let alone all the other things, the emotional journey that they have to take us on with, the integrity of acting, all the layers that we can kind of put on it. Sometimes just showing up is winning. Something that celebrities do, I think, better than us is they allow people to celebrate them better. Like the actual word celebrate. Like, for example, if I were to go to Giphy right now and look at the GIFs, stickers, animated stickers that we're all making stories with, most of those faces are famous celebrity faces. I'm up there, by the way. If you go to Giphy right now and you type in Vinnie Potestivo, you'll see my face and a bunch of my stickers up there. I realized how easy it was for any business owner, any creator on this planet to get a free account on Giphy, to have our stickers available to be used, to be celebrated, to creatively be inspiring in moments when people want to lean on us for our creativity. And it's little things like stickers in Giphy that lead to the celebrity mentality of this person is valuable. This person's presence is valuable, and their presence is valuable not just in my life, but in someone else's. Maybe I should share. And ultimately, I think that it's funny how you put this, them and the norm, us and them. I think the difference is they realize that increased visibility does not lead to increased discoverability. Like, to get discovered, you do not increase visibility. You have to increase your shareability. You have to create these moments, you have to create merch, you have to create albums, movies, TV shows, appearances, conversations, podcasts. You have to create these things that allow people to share. So celebrities right now, again, I talked about award ceremony. We can share in their fashion sense. We can share in their achievements. We can share in the wins and the losses, and the community wins and the community losses. And just their presence, especially this year, just their presence is sheerly enough. And I think that sometimes we feel like we have to do something super normal, super abnormal, super ridiculously successful to be able to gain, the notoriety of press. You'd be surprised at how easy it is. Actually, we can talk about that. Is that cool? How easy it is to get press? Because that's like people really are afraid, how am I going to get press? I have a brand new podcast. I have a brand new business. I have a brand new product or a service. I haven't done anything. Maybe I just got out of college. Maybe I just got a divorce. Maybe everything's going right for me in life, and none of those bad things had to happen for me to have something new.
I can even generalize the question a little bit. I come from the world of tech, where there are a lot of people, myself included, who are good at building stuff and really bad at getting eyeballs to stuff.
Yeah.
And so from our perspective, it's not just how do I get pressed, but how do I get anyone to see what I've done, essentially, is always a question that requires a lot of experimentations and kind of trial and error, because I don't know what the system is. So maybe you can enlighten me.
Yeah, you know how to for them to get them to see, what you're capable of, show them. And you have to use their words, their phrasing. So they have leads, they have quotas, they have a need for content that we know they have to publish. One of the things that I was actually kind of shook, to be honest, about the simplicity of it was in being able to follow a prompt. So the number one blank, who does blank? If I look at headlines, especially in business, whether it's e-magazines or actually print materials, I see the world's number one blank does blank. This is a headline. Whether we like it or not, it is a headline that I see a lot. And that prompt to me signals that the platform knows that its readers find value in that prompt and that structure. So what most of us don't do is take that prompt, throw it into Chat GPT or some other AI and say, hey, prompt, my name's Vinnie Potestivo. I'm a discovery expert. I help people, I advise on media projects. Write me a prompt that would fit this, structure. The world's number one blank does blank. What would the world be interested to hear from me? I ask Chat GPT, I ask AI that information for me. If I'm not already self-aware of what I think those opportunities are as well. Being self-aware is obviously a stronger point to be coming from, but I lean on Chat GPT for information. I lean on AI for information and output outside of the box in a really safe way. And you'd be amazed at how easy and clear it becomes a newsworthy story. But here's the thing, you can't pitch yourself to press as a story. They don't want a story. They want a source. They want to know that you are who you say you are, you're doing what you say you're doing, and you will consistently be doing that. Because once they validate you, once they verify you are who you say you are, and they've, truth check you and everything that you're actually contributing marks up, they want to be able to work with you again and again. It's actually easier to work with confirmed sources than it is to have to build new sources for every single story, all these billions of stories that are being shared. I think there's a power in being seen as the source. An album is the source of the singles, that are going to be. The Bible is a source for books and stories and characters. There is an organizing principle, a source that allows a stage to be created and for these stories to be elevated. So pitch yourself as a source. This is like tip number one, especially for independent business owners, people who might not be working with a publicist. I've never had a publicist working with me. I've been lucky to be in castings and in New York City to meet people through entertainment, but also I pitch these people the same way I'm showing you how to do it. The world's number one discovery expert shares the formula to being discovered.
But that sounds like a story, but you're saying the pitching is to present yourself as a source. How do you make that transition?
So that's exactly in the intro. So the intro for me is three facts of what I've done. So if it's someone that I don't know yet, I try to meet them on a platform where I have credibility and notoriety. So on Instagram, I'm verified, but I've got 13,000 followers. To me, that signifies I'm a real person. I'm an industry professional. But if you're looking for the 500, 1 million plus people, I'm not going to stand out, in that sea of influencers. But on LinkedIn, I know I will be. On LinkedIn, I know that when you look at my content, the last few posts that I've had, you'll see the hundreds of comments and conversations that I'm having. You'll see that I have highly engaged and I'm pretty active on a platform, and you'll see the following that I have, and it's all sort of evident there. So for me, I try to meet people on LinkedIn because that's where I feel like I show up the best. I demonstrate to them that I have a history. So I'll say I've done during my time at MTV, and I did it at the top of this podcast, by the way. During my time at MTV, I worked with a couple of people that, we know in common. Ashton Kutcher happens to be one of them, and the things that he taught me, in my industry was my gosh, I can't even think about all the things that's a whole nother topic. We'll talk about that. Now I talk about the current opportunity that I have. I have this project that I'm looking to get, out into the world. I actively sat down with someone, I have conversation, and I'm looking to move this piece of content. And if this is successful, and this is like sort of the hook, I think, and if this is successful, I have 2 more interviews. I have 2 more opportunities. I have 2 more of these that I'm doing that I'd like to bring you in on, whether you want to give me a question, or maybe you can shape some of how the answers or how some of the questions are going based on how your audience might feel about this content. But what I can do for me, for example, I leverage my access to the people without having to leverage access to my guests. So I say, I'm sitting down with Mandy Moore next month. If you'd like to ask 2 or 3 questions, let me know what those would look like. I would love to work with you, in the future. I'd love to have the support moving forward, the same way that I'm asking you for the support now. So that's it. 3 facts about me in the past, 1 opportunity that I have on the table now, and then 2 more opportunities in the future that I'm saying they're coming, they're near. And I'm not being vague about it. I'm being very as clear as I can be about these opportunities. I just don't want you to think that this one story is the only thing I'm working on, because I know how that feels, being on the media side, hearing that pitch. I understand the importance of why you're pitching it and why you feel like this needs to be, seen by millions, thousands, billions. But it's going to take work on my side for it to get there. And that's where having clarity in your vision, and I even call it pre-purposing instead of repurposing. But when you can pre-purpose your content, when you have purposeful relationships that are waiting to support you, versus recording a podcast episode and then going to social media and trying to figure out what to put on, and then trying to figure out hashtags that match that conversation, and secret tagging, putting people's names in and making it so small so you can't even like tap on it, but the system sees it. All that living content strategy, which is exhausting in a hamster wheel. What I try to do is get people to live the life strategy that results in content, more so than the content strategy that results in life.
So you mentioned what this looks like to the journalist, and I'm really curious about that side of things. You touched upon the quotas that they have to meet, the leads or the sources that they tend to, I don't want to say use, that they tend to work with to actually acquire content, the work that they have to put in to actually put content out there. What does all of this look like? What does the hamster wheel feel like? And how can we help journalists do a better job, essentially?
Yeah, some of it is the information we provide them. I have a Google Doc, a dossier that I actually have pulled the top press clippings that I'd like them to find, about me that I've gotten, not just the most impactful ones with the most reach, but the ones that really give me a well-defined version of who I want to be. So I give them a document with a ton of source files and information that prove that other public television or digital or even local blogs, have written about me. To be really honest, that's why I created ihaveapodcast.com. I created ihaveapodcast.com to feature independent podcasters, because we don't get featured. Our podcasts get talked about, and maybe we'll be like one of 5 people to, always in these listicles. That's not how you get discovered. That's not increasing your visibility on Google listicles, and that type of inclusion is not going to lead to the authority building that we're capable of building when we're building like targeted, true content, H1 header content about you. That's the stuff, I get excited about it, but that's the stuff that the aggregators are helping us do. That's where, Google, by the way, to answer your question, it changes every month. 2 months ago, Google got rid of the play button that used to accompany podcast in search results. So if you search for something on Google, if there was a podcast about that topic, that episode would pop up and there'd be a little play button, and they removed that play button. In the beginning of 2023, Google announced that it's going to be removing podcasts entirely from search results. So if you want to search for content on podcasts, you can go to podcast platforms like Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can search there for podcast information, but they're no longer going to give you podcasts as an answer to the questions that you're looking for. And a lot of us started podcasts for search and for reach and for visibility. This is where being intentful and being really lasered in on your media and your content strategy can really have an impact. Writing one blog about your podcast episode, what you can now do with that one blog. First off, blogs have an RSS. I know the audience knows this. Similar to podcasts have an RSS. It's the same thing, RSS, really simple syndication. So just remember that RSS means really simple syndication. It doesn't get easier than that. What I did with my blog RSS is I went to news.google.com and I was able to see if my platform was a source on Google. It wasn't. So then I had to go to publishercenter.google.com, add my blog RSS, which now puts my blog RSS on an exchange for hundreds, if not thousands of creators who have blogs that are also looking for that type of content to pull it. And I now have the ability to, because of blog content, have the ability to scale a brand through podcasting, and more so than through search engine results based on the topics that we're talking about. And we can get really specific about them too. And that's this is the benefit of aggregators, by the way, is being discovered at a point in time when someone is looking for you. Discovery, I said this earlier, discovery is hard. It's not about visibility. People, if you want, there's a lot of places we get visibility: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. It doesn't lead to discoverability. It's that shareable piece that makes it important. So when someone finds your blog about, say your episode is about podcast marketing, and when they find your blog about podcast marketing, they have two options. They can read it or they can share it, or you could do the hybrid, read it and share it, and all the world is better. To serve someone a piece of information when they're looking for it, this is the aha. This is the big moment I know you're searching for this topic. For me to show up as a result at a point in time when you're searching for this topic, I'm going to have a much larger impact in the results of what I'm looking for versus if I was trying to get your information, trying to get your attention, on TikTok or on Instagram, trying to get you to break the scroll and the whole rigmarole of what entertainment looks like, on social media.
So I want to try to get this back to the last question, because we sort of veered into the system where Google discovers your content directly and there is no middleman. But I want to understand the incentives of the middleman anyway, right? Because
sure.
Most content still looks like a journalist writing about you as opposed to Google just discovering your blog.
Right.
Journalist typically gets more eyeballs. There are some exceptions, but not that many. So what does the journalist's world look like? When he's looking at Vinnie, he's looking at Alex, he's thinking who to write about, what to publish today, how do I make money, and how do I not go bankrupt, essentially.
Yeah. Well, so I'm going to point out journalism is interesting in online culture right now. There are the pure journalists who work on news platforms, and they are literally going out and they are not just creating the news, but like reporting on it as well, accurately and detailed, versus some of the, councils, the press councils that are out, now online. So I see on LinkedIn a lot of people that look like they're on the cover of GQ, or they're on the cover of Entrepreneur, or they're on the cover of any sort of magazine I can think of right now. You can pay to play. The councils came out as a byproduct of these news brands leveraging the IP associated with the brand and the IP and the real estate associated with the .com. But what's happening is you're able to now buy an article, favorable article, about you, get it to have it live on what looks like and is a valid URL, which just is not indexed by the web and is not pushed out by the web, is not supposed to be, but also has the Forbes brand name on it as well, but Forbes Council. What you're talking about is true Forbes journalists. So I want to stay away from the pay to play sort of answer, because to be honest, that's murky. That looks, to me, if this was asked before ChatGPT, before December of 2022, I would answer it different. Now, it looks like it's predatory, and it's people who are looking for press versus the journalists who are tasked with looking for people who are worthy of being in the press.
And for the record, I've been offered to be on one of the Forbes councils, and I just looked at it, and it looks like $2,500 to write my own blog on a different domain. And
Yeah.
that made no sense to me. But I am talking about real journalists who were still
Yeah.
journalists 5 years ago,
That's the
writing
thing.
about me or my company because it is interesting. So what I'm trying to understand is what is interesting to them.
Yeah. So, oh, well, okay. First off, if you want to find out what's interesting to the journalists are kind of the easiest people. Oh, this is fun. I'm rolling up my sleeves on this one. It's really fun to find journalists, what treats them, because they often have tasks. They often are assigned to certain desks. They often have topics, and a lot of those topics are annualized. Most of the public news cycle is annualized. No one's surprised that we're talking about awards at the end of February. Soon it's going to be, March Madness. Then it's going to be spring. Then it's going to be end of school. Then it's going to be summertime. And the news knows these cycles. The news knows these cycles because those are the same cycles they're selling to advertisers. And don't forget, like, advertisers created the byproduct of television. They said, we have things to sell. We need stuff for people to watch so we can sell stuff, basically. Journalists that are working with, and this is oh man, I got so many things in my head right now, because what's going on right now with Fox News and the journalists that knowingly reported on some of the American election results. And this is actually, it's a really interesting time in journalism. It's an interesting time in journalism because up until, I would say, the 80s or 90s, journalism was strictly about news. The journalist, the reporter, was not to be part of the news. MTV News, as far as I know, MTV News is where I first started seeing the ethnicity, the sex, the gender, the sexuality of the journalist or the person reporting actually start to take shape and become part of the story itself. I think now we're at this stage where journalists, and this is a tough question, this is a loaded question, where journalists are being hit hard with platform priorities. And those platform priorities are dictated by the advertisers. So if you want to know who to write, your article, one of the things I would do is start looking at who's acknowledged your industry, who's written about your industry. Again, chances are they have written about it subsequent times, not just once. You're looking for people who have repeat offenses, people who are really experts, who are coming at this again and again. And what I do is in the follow-up, maybe the specialties in the follow-up, I never follow up and ask for an update, or if they have an opportunity for me, I'm leading that conversation with an update. I'm part of this, we're doing, which is going to XYZ, or I saw something got announced and I wanted to see how that might, impact you. Like, I'm trying to add to the conversation, not just poke and say, what about me? What about me? Which a lot of people just stay on topic. They do. And following up, I hate to say this, but like, part of the art and press simply is just following up. Most likely we're going to ignore the first request. Most likely. Why? I don't know you. I don't know if you're serious. I don't know where you are in the world and what time you're sending this email to me, or if you found my name on a list. I just want to make sure that before I start jumping through hoops, this really matters to you. I'll actually wait for the follow-up. And I know that now. So when I pitch talent or when I pitch shows, I follow up the next day. I used to wait a week and give them space. I'm like, hey, I just want to, follow up on that. Let me know if there's anything else, a PDF or anything you need from me, a video to support what I can, give you here. But I've got assets. So I don't overwhelm you. Let me know what you'd like me to send you. But I have, promo assets that I can send you over. I would send that a day after, as opposed to a week. Maybe 4 years ago, I would have waited a week, before the pandemic, before the crush of internal communications and the destructure of how sort of internal communications at large networks or large platforms used to work. Because now a lot lands on the person, and it's the people, it's the actual reporters that are jumping from platform to platform, and I would follow them. And that's the benefit of when someone leaves one place and the next, is like, now you've got an opening at a place where you have a track record, and you also get to travel there with. but it's in following their journey. And I said Google alerts. I have on Twitter. I have editors and writers and journalists whose accounts I have starred if I've got them on my mind, because I start supporting and liking and energizing, content around them in a way that I want them to see, me in their results as well. So it looks like that energy.
So from their perspective, I keep trying to turn this around from what do you do as a talent to what do they do as essentially the go-between, the guy who creates the content. You mentioned that they insert themselves into the story a lot more than they used to. And I'm guessing that's just a part of the culture. That's not something driven by incentives in a way. They are often driven by advertising cycles. So I'm kind of curious how that affects different journalists and different sub-industries, right? And they move around a lot and they have their own brand now, as opposed to just being the news guy for the New York Times. Now it's a name, and that name sort of might carry over to a different outlet. What else drives their day? What pressures are they typically facing? Deadlines, quotas, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I bet that. So if they're working at a large company, there's probably a couple of departments that they've got to work with as well. Public responsibility. There's a real responsibility to make sure the content that we're creating there's a real important to be aware that the content that we're creating is going to create a conversation, and how that conversation is handled is important. These platforms are responsible for starting conversations. That's what they're trying to do by generating news, by getting people to talk and share about this. So public responsibility, what that looks like is meetings with lawyers and standards and understanding some of the nonprofits or for-profits or some of the beneficiary partnerships that we have in play that can strengthen certain topics. We talked about cycles because, maybe there is need for more conversation around mental health around a certain, month or day based on the press coverage of those topics. And again, we go back and look at the social media calendars, the press, the banana of the day, dog of the year, sort of like these ideas that we laugh about, where everything has a day, it seems like on social media. It's the same exact in news, and it hasn't changed. By the way, Amelia Earhart's birthday, the day that the Titanic went down. I can go on and on about single days that we annualize those strange. I just brought up the strangest topics. So public responsibility is one. Ratings is another. At MTV, we had something called Walter. We all like to earn ratings. I bet ratings are a big part, especially now where you're looking at immediate read, and then you're looking at the extended play. You're looking at, after, if you're a digital creator, a digital publisher, and you're creating something, it might hit print, and there's going to be a certain reach of print that day, but chances are it's also going to hit online. And the dogtail, the length that article is seen as relevant as that matters. So a lot of conversations about ratings, that turns into what makes an article last longer. What do we need to add at the end of an article to keep people more vested so that we can hook them into the next? Or what are we linking to in our article that will keep people's attention on our platform more? So it looks like a lot of unfortunately, I say unfortunately because whenever any market's kind of got a downturn on numbers, that's when those meetings pop up. And when I was in TV, man, that was like it was supposed to be a weekly meeting, but it seemed like every other day we were like, where are the eyeballs going? And then YouTube had them all. Little did we know. The responsibility. So fact checking. I've got to do first degree or second degree background checks on people often, especially anyone that I'm ever going to put on television or in any type of public medium. So a first tier background check really means, is your business in good standing? Do you have any current convictions, or I don't want to go into the whole description of it all. Do you have anything within the last 7 years, basically, that we need to be aware of? Second degree, checks go back to 15 years and go a little bit deeper that way. But fact checking, usually there's a department for fact checking, but verifying we are who we are, there's a system called LexisNexis. lawyers, real estate executives, and like TV people have access to. And you need a membership, and it's not an easy membership to get, and you need a valid reason to use it. But it allows us to see. By the way, it allows us to see all the data points. How the government and these systems take all these data points. It knows me, and it knows my birthday, and it knows my college that I went to because of my birthday, but it also knows my car that I, bought, and it also knows my house. So now there's a centralized system where I can pop in anyone's name or business. I can do a search for you. I can see the last few homes you purchased if I'm looking for contact information on you. I know LexisNexis we use that a lot for contact information because it's got really deep info. It's got information from platforms you don't think are reporting your information back at you. So if you want to know, how does it know my age? You put it in somewhere and confirmed it. And, and age is I bring up age. I come from media, so I'm hyper aware and sensitive to ageism, and I'm very aware of what knowing someone's age can do. In this world of data, knowing someone's age is that's like diamonds compared to gold. And when you sign into Amazon and you tell them your birthday, just because you're an actor and you don't want your birthday to show up on IMDb, which is an Amazon owned entity, you're giving, you're basically saying, here's my information, but I don't want this website to know it. But Amazon is without doubt going to put it on IMDb. There have been annualized cases about how sensitive this information is. And ultimately Amazon's stance and the court's rule in favor is it's public information that was reported. And it's actually a disservice if they were to take it down, because who are they to start figuring out what information should or shouldn't be edited? If it's information and it's verified, then we have the right to utilize it. Is sort of where they're at. So information gathering, information confirming. Probably, to be really honest, I think we still do Google image search. This is a funny one, but I worked in casting, so I would have people pretend to be a housewife or pretend to be something because they want to be in on the process, and they would send a picture. And soon after the process, we learned to start looking at everyone's images through Google image search to make sure that this wasn't someone that could be being catfished or duplicated. So a lot of that, all of that energy, that's pretty protective energy. That's pretty defensive energy that I just described there. That's not so much on no part of that was offense. No part of that was the part I should have focused on, which is like, where are they getting their leads? Where are the sources that they trust when someone says this is a story, that they know that this is a story? Because now you understand all the things they have to do to keep their job without getting fired. But how do they get promoted? How do they get to the next big story? It's the sources that matter the most. So it's defending the pieces around you so that you're working in truth or absolute truth to the best that you can be. And then knowing that when a source comes in, you're primed and ready to move as quickly as possible. And I think that's the benefit in being a source, seen more so than just one character and one story in this one moment in time. And I think that's why in setting up, I've been here a while. I can't believe it's taken me years to meet you. I hope that we have as many years ahead of us, now that we're connected. Here's what I'm working on now. I'd love for you to be a part of it. And if not, I have 2 other opportunities coming up that I thought might be right for you. Let me know when we can hop on a call. I never even say, what do you think about that? I don't want their opinion. I want to, let me know when you can hop on a call. That's not a yes or no question. I didn't say, would you like to hop on a call? Let me know when you can hop on a call. By the way, in TV, in selling a TV show, I know I'm jumping on topic, so I'll stop right here. But in selling a TV show, in the pitch room, you never say, would you like to buy my show? That doesn't come up. There's no question mark. It's always, we're going to make this show. It's going to be great. These are the words. This is the vocabulary. This is the characters who are going to get us there. We're going to make this great show.
Yeah, it's funny. You made the distinction between offensive and defensive. In my mind, I'm immediately making a second distinction, which is that everything you described so far is entirely supply side driven, right? At no point did we get a question about what do our readers actually want to consume.
Oh yeah.
That was completely absent from the conversation.
Well, that's hidden in that Walter. That's hidden in the Walter meetings. That's where that would come up. Yeah, you know what? I bet from my experience in TV, that type of conversation comes quarterly. and there's constantly happening. I wish that would happen, actually, no, I'm happy that it comes quarterly, because you have to have time to actually move on it. And in media and in journalism, the goal post moves too much, because of time. So when you can really be landlocked and finite about, a story. This is why I actually am recommending to people, as they're like, should I be in podcasting or should I not? I'm recommending people create like a finite series in podcasting. You don't need to be a weekly, monthly, live every single day to have. It's an audio platform, so have an audio project. If Nicole Kidman can do 6 episodes of a mini series and win awards, then why can't we? There's this whole like them and us, the mentality. Like, I really look at what they get away with and what we get. We say, oh, it's a video podcast. No, it's just a poorly shot video like looking at a microphone and 2 people behind a microphone. That's not a video podcast. Let's amp that up and energize that around there. I like that.
I want to end on a futuristic note. You mentioned ChatGPT a few times, so clearly you're on the cutting edge of how tech is being used in this space. Where do you see this entire ecosystem going now that content creation is becoming, let's say, a lot less time consuming if you can supplement with robots?
Yeah, but you don't understand. It's supplemented with robots as soon as we got these smartphones. I mean, in 2007, for me, I got millions of qualified creative colleagues because of technology, because they suddenly had the ability now to not only just have a platform for themselves, but to record it. So how TV has been created, how it's been like, how media, how video and audio has been created, it's changed tremendously. I still think that the sources reign supreme. I think that, the networks have the TV shows, the shelves have the books, and I think the source is still more important than ever. In the future, if we're in the creator economy now, like I came from the real people economy in the early 2000s. If we're in the creator economy now, I think our next economy is going to be the community economy. I think it's going to be a real value-driven conversation around our ability to connect with large groups of people, as opposed to being a large brand that can connect on smaller platforms and social platforms and shared space, of media. A lot of that's going to change based on how we connect with content. I grew up wanting the TV Guide or the Sunday paper, so I knew it was on TV that week. The newspaper was my source. After the newspaper stopped being my source, I started to rely on technology for the day to day. If I would have just relied on that TV newspaper, I'd have one simple source and I wouldn't have to bop around all week long looking for all the things that I'm missing or not. So I'm trying to get to is, I think the curation is a big part of the future of content, where we're connecting, where we're seeing our content from, who we're seeing it from. I think it's going to come more from our peers than established, publicly traded media platforms, or to be honest, I think we'll see the shift of journalists. Even now, journalists and reporters it's a very spicy topic in TV because of the goals of big business. I hate to say that, but that's kind of how I really feel.
Right. So that I'm in the content selection space, you could say as well. So I'm curious, when you say that we are going to be more driven by community selection as opposed to relying on a big publicly traded company, what does that look like?
Yeah. So right now we have these podcasts, and our podcast, we're being asked our download numbers, and so think of a future where we have podcasts, right? Which is just our ability to take an audio product and connect it to our audience. So we'll have the ability through RSS, through RSS. And I also want to point out in television, when you're watching a national news show, here you watch a national news show in New York, I know that I'm getting the local news weather. So I know within a 16-minute show, they're targeting down based on my demographics. I think the future of content really stems from our access to community. So it's a little hard for me to explain now because we're not there yet. I don't think it's been created what I quite see happening, but our ability as an audience to control what's in front of us instead of what's in front of us to control who the audience is, if that makes sense.
That's a very optimistic note. I have my doubts about that level of control in the hands of the audience, but I hope you are right.
Well, I mean, also, good luck with the audience that gets what they want, because I'll tell you something about audience. They never, they never know they know what they don't want, but they hardly ever know what they do want.
I remember the guy that designed the retweet button for Twitter in 2009 at some point said in an interview, we just gave a bunch of 4-year-olds a loaded gun.
Yikes. Yeah, pretty true. Yeah. Well, they knew it too then, huh? They knew that then. Yeah. Yikes.
As I mentioned, I hope you're right. And on that optimistic note,
yeah.
I want to thank you so much for joining us. It was a great episode, and hope to talk to you soon.
Thanks, Alex. That's hysterical.
This has been another episode of The Other Web. Join us next time for more discussions about media, journalism, and the future of information.